Hi, good people. Welcome back to Morning's Book List. So I am here to do a review on Passing, and this novel is written by Nella Larson, and the premise of the story is that there are two women who are biracial, and fair enough, like their complexion is fair enough that if you didn't know, you would say they were white. You could easily mistake them as being white people. So the story takes place again in the 1920s, and Irene lives as a black person, and Irene Redfield, that's one of the characters, she lives as a black person, and Clara Kendry, the other character, lives or passes as a white woman. And when I first heard the story, it was the context of which I heard it in was that Irene got a little disturbed when Claire came back around because they grew up together, and then Claire went off to be white, if you will, and it came the way they meet up again is that Irene is in Chicago to visit her family, and she runs into Claire, and Claire's like begging her to come and meet her husband and her daughter and all this kind of stuff. So that's how it was introduced, is that Irene is upset because Claire now wants to come back in the world of, as they refer to black people in this book, the Negro world. And she talks about being so alone and things like that. So yeah, that's the base premise, and that's how it was introduced to me. This book is so much more. It's so much more. It talked about the fetishizing. I'm not gonna say it right. Yeah, fetishizing black or biracial women and men, and it talks about everything. I don't want to tell the one thing they talked about because I think that's kind of I like the way that's you don't get that until kind of the end. But yeah, it talked about that. It talked about friendship and jealousy, and it talks about self-righteousness. It's such a good book. Like, Nella Larson's wrote these characters so complex, especially Irene, because Irene is supposed to be, if you will, the hero of the book, because she lived a life as a Negro, and she's in the right for not wanting Claire to come back around because Claire went off to live as a white person, she disrespected her race by going off and living as a white woman and this kind of thing. And actually, Claire is a shitty person, but she is so self-aware of who she is. Like, there's this one part, I'm not spoiling anything, and it struck me so hard. I remember all the words. At one point, Claire said, "I wish I was a better person, but Irene, I will destroy, kill, hurt anyone to get what I want." Like, just matter of fact. And then you figure out why she said that later on in the book, but it was a really good book. Irene, I'm gonna be honest with you, even though she's supposed to be the hero of the story, I dislike her the most out of the two women. And I think that, like, again, Nella wrote these characters so well that Irene could be just someone down the street, or you or me. Like, she's very self-righteous in thinking, I have a husband, I have my two sons, I do this for the Negro League. And I'm using the word Negro because that's the language in which they use other language about black people, but I ain't gonna use that. But that's how black people were referred to in the 20s. I think up until the 60s. I remember I have a friend who is about 15 years older than me, and on her birth certificate, her race is Negro. Like, that's her race. Not African American, not black, Negro. Oh, and this is the funny part, her father was colored and her mother was Negro, so she was Negro. That was her father was black. They was all black. She's black. Everybody black. But it was just weird. So it's not weird to me that they use the language of Negro, and that kind of thing. But it was interesting, like how, you know, Irene was so self-righteous and pitying Claire in some ways about her wanting to now come back and be around black people, and like upset by it, but at the same time she kind of allows it, because she gets to look down on her, and then she gets to look down on her until that thing happens, and then when that thing happens, she's like, oh, okay, I see how you are. Yeah, and then the ending, I did not see the ending coming. Like, the ending is a big surprise. Now, is it like some twist, some huge twist? No. Yeah, because I just didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. It was interesting. You think it's going along a certain way, and then you're like, bam, it just, that happens. So the book is very short. It's only about, I think it's less than 100 pages. And it kind of leaves you scratching your head. I really enjoyed this book. And me and my book club, we have discussed it all the way up to, I think, the end of part 2, because it's written in parts, end of part 2. So this won't come out until after we all finish our review of it. But I remember saying to them, parts of this remind me of this conversation I had about marrying for money versus sleeping with people for money. Because, like, I don't like Irene because she looks down on Claire for living a life as a white person. But when you meet Irene, she's passing as a white person because she's in a taxi cab with a white driver. She goes to this very nice hotel that black people would have not been allowed in. She dines there because she's so fair that white people don't even consider that she could be passing. They think she's a white person. So it's interesting how she looks down on Claire for completely living her life as a white person when Irene picks and chooses to pass, if you will, as a white person. So it's interesting, and it was deep conversation about how, like, how fed, like, having biracial children is like a fantasy or something. They talk about, you know, Irene and Claire meet up with another woman the other woman is not passing. Like, when she married her husband, I think her name was, oh my God, I'm gonna call her Claudia. I don't remember her name, but Claudia and Claire and Irene meet up, and Claudia's like, she has, I think she has 2 boys. She also has two boys, but she wants a girl, but she absolutely refuses to get pregnant again because she doesn't want the baby to come out dark and possibly be mistaken as black. Like, this shit is deep. And then Claire has a daughter, and same thing, she refuses to have another child because she doesn't want the child to come out dark. But her husband doesn't know she's black, so that is a whole nother element of this book. Is like, Claire's husband is not aware that his wife is half black. It's crazy. And then you have Irene, who has 2 boys, and one clearly is darker than her and her other son, and she doesn't care. She's very happy to have her family. It talks about, like, it's when it starts, it's a slow start, and it was hard for us to get into it, but once we got into it, there was so much to unpack. Like, there was unpacking her relationship with her husband Brian, Irene's husband Brian, and unpacking Claire's relationship with her husband John, John. His nickname was Jack, though. So, like, it was crazy interesting, like, how this book, the premise of it is about how two people how two people can have, like, kind of the same start and then verge to go to different ways in life, and how race and being biracial plays into that. But there's so much more. Like, again, there's so much to unpack. Even if you're not black and you don't understand, I don't know how to say that. I don't know. even if you're not black and you may not, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I just feel like if you're looking for an interesting classic novel to read, Passing by Nella Larsen is an intriguing and extremely, it is a slow ride, I will tell you that, but those 98 pages takes you on that damn ride. So yeah, Passing by Nella Larsen, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. The only point off, or the 0.5 off of it, is when when this style, I don't like the style of writing. I like the content. I didn't like the style. I've never liked classic style of writing. I think it's too flowery, but that's because I don't live in that age. I don't live in that period of time. It's very flowerful. Like, they use words like laudable. You know what laudable means? It means commendable. Why don't you just say it's commendable? Why you gotta use some word that nobody... I digress. But like, it's like a lot of that, like, you know, you freed my soul from the depths. Like, come on, you just say thank you. Like, it's just a lot of flowery writing that is very much of that time. So it's not just her. Frankenstein is that way. That's why it's hard for me to read Frankenstein. It was the same way with Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It's just very flowery language that it's just, they write 4 sentences that you can say in 2. So that bothers me. I don't really like that type of writing. But the content is amazing. Please check it out. That is, again, Passing by Nella Larsen. I think you enjoyed. And I think what I was trying to say earlier is, even if you are not familiar with the Black experience in America, I think it would open your eyes just a little bit, just a little bit. And this conversation about biracial children, about them being a fetish themselves, like having biracial children. I'm gonna be real with you. We can have that conversation another time. So then, until that conversation, I'm gonna take my bouncy hair and go on about my bad self. So bye for now.